Do you consider yourself a happy, healthy human? If there were a spectrum of happy and healthy humans, from 1 meaning you're completely sad and unhealthy, up to 10 where you are completely self-actualized, happy, and supremely healthy, where do you rank yourself along that spectrum? Here's a good thing. No matter where you rank yourself, this episode is for you. Today on the Pep Talk podcast, I am speaking with my special guest, Paul Levitin, about what it takes to become a happy, healthy human, specifically as it relates with dealing with self-sabotage. Now, this episode's going to be a two-parter because it's just that good, but you know the mission of this podcast is to cheer you on and coach you up, and sometimes it takes a little bit more time to get you to that point. So, I'm your host, Coach Jay, and when I come back, we're going to dig right into this interview. It's going to be good. Get your pen and paper ready. Get your notes app ready because Paul is going to hit you with a lot of truth and it's going to be very eye-opening to you. But before we get to that, have you had your dose of pep today? No? Don't worry. I've got you. Let's go. Back to this episode of the Pep Talk podcast. It's your boy, Coach Jay. I'm so glad to be here with you. And today we have an interview that I believe is going to be just amazing. There's someone that I'm speaking to today who is, I think, a man after my own heart. Looking at his content and seeing everything that he's doing, I highly resonate with it. And I believe that after this conversation, you're going to be motivated and inspired to continue doing the work to elevate. So I want to introduce you all to Mr. Paul Levitin. He is a confidence coach. He works in fitness and health. He is a speaker. He does a lot of stuff, and he used to win Yu-Gi-Oh! Championships. Pep Squad, I gladly introduce to you Mr. Paul Levitin. Paul, why don't you greet the people, man?
Well, one, thank you for that introduction. Thank you so much for having me here, Justin. I'm super glad to be here with you and the Pep Squad. That's an amazing introduction. And yeah, I do a lot of stuff, but what I'm most passionate about is just helping people be better versions of themselves. I have a podcast myself called Happy Healthy Human. And the last word is human because to me, that's what this is all about. We're all just trying to be the best humans that we can be, which is challenging and tricky. And there's a lot of stuff working against us. So I have podcasting, I have coaching, I have social media. I have a lot of stuff where I just try to put out information and help people learn and live the best lives possible. And I want to give you kudos right off the bat for doing your research. I've done probably no less than 100 podcast interviews in the last year or so, and you're the first person to ever have brought up my Yu-Gi-Oh career from back in the day. So you were digging deep in the Google archives to find that. I appreciate that.
Hey man, I'm no stranger to the Blue Eyes White Dragon myself, so you know. So I generally like to start these conversations. I'm a big comic book fan. And the thing that I love about comic books are the origin stories about how the heroes, finally recognize who they are and they just go about becoming like Superman, discovering he has powers and he can beat up everybody or whatever that is. So if you were to write an origin story for Paul Levitin that would lead up to this point in life, what would that origin story be?
Yes, that's a great question. There's a few different pieces, key parts to my story, but the main thing that led me to where I'm at now was becoming a personal trainer, and that was something that just happened serendipitously. I really graduated from college. I went to school for business marketing, graduated in 2012 when it was kind of coming off the tail end of like the 2007, 2008 financial crisis, and the markets were kind of whatever, and jobs weren't really there. And I wasn't getting any jobs or any even callbacks. And I had no job. I had nothing to do. I was, 22 years old, just living in my old bedroom that I grew up in, living with my mom. And so I started to at least work out. I was like, all right, like at least I can be fit if I'm going to be poor. And
Mm-hmm.
I started to work out, and I was like, well, maybe I could do this for a job. So I just applied, I started to learn about fitness, fitness, personal training, and things like that. And I applied for a job, and I got a job doing personal training because it's pretty easy to get a job doing personal training. Honestly, there's very low barrier to entry, which says something about the industry as a whole. But that led me to actually starting to be a trainer, and starting to learn about it, and learn about health and wellness, and then nutrition, and kind of start helping people. That was a big thing. So that was a big piece of it. It's actually started to help people. And, what was first just like a means to an end of like, I need a job and this seems like a cool one, actually was like, oh, I can actually help people. And that was a big piece of the puzzle. But then the next big piece was when I realized that there's actually more to it than fitness. So, you start with fitness, and then it's like, okay, fitness, like I got it. I can tell people how to work out. I can help them. It's like, okay, but now everyone's not getting fit. It's like, oh, I need nutrition. And it's like, okay, well now I understand nutrition and I understand fitness. Now I got the whole puzzle put together. It's like now I can definitely help everyone. And then you still see again, like people are still not getting it. So like, what is the disconnect there? And that's what took me to my next step, which was learning about human behavior and psychology and behavioral economics, and why we do the things that we do, or more often why we don't do the things that we say that we should do or want to do. And that became the question I got very, very interested in. And that's what I dove into for the second half of my career, the last 5 years or so, of just being like, why are humans so weird? Why do we take actions that are counter to our own best interest? Why are we not all inherently the best version of ourselves, right? Like, why we have the information, right? Like, when I could give someone the best workout and the best diet, why could they not follow it? Why could I not follow it? Like, I'm not perfect. I don't have the best body. I have all the things that, I make all the mistakes that people make. So that became the thing that became very interesting to me. And I kind of transitioned away from health and fitness. Again, I still have that background. I can still very much talk on it and help with it, but it became less interesting to me. And I became much more interested in the why behind the what, and psychology and that type of thing. So it kind of steered me in that direction to where now I don't even work in fitness anymore, but I'm still passionate about helping people create change.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, that's a cool journey. Um, to where you are now. And it sounds like everything that you're talking about. Why are humans so weird? Why do we not do the things that are going to help us become the best possible version of ourselves? And I'm no stranger to that either. It can be a struggle, but it sounds to me like you're really talking about the question that you're asking and that you're answering is, why do human beings self-sabotage? Because to me, that's what it comes down to. Uh, so what have you found in working with clients and in your own journey? Um, why is self-sabotage such a prevalent thing?
Yeah, I really like that you asked that question, because to me, everything comes down to self sabotage, right? Literally everything. Because if you understand like what I was just saying before, we know the answers, right? Like, you and I are talking on a magical device where we can see each other from across the world instantly. And the same device will give us any answer to any question that has a factual answer. So anything that can be answered with facts, we have access to those facts in our pocket literally in less than a second, right? How do I lose weight? How do I gain muscle? How do I get rich? How do I make $1 million? How do I build a business? How do I have a better relationship? How do I have a better relationship with my kids? How do I raise kids? How do I do anything that we can ask? We have answers. So we have to understand that lack of information is no longer an excuse. So that's the number one. That's the first thing that people say. Well, why don't you? Oh, well, I don't know what to do to lose weight. Well, that's a lie. Well, I don't know what to do. I don't know what business to. Well, again, like that, the information is out there. So if you want it, it's there for you. So now we have to answer, why don't we take action with that? So if I can admit that the information is all out there, the only thing that could be possibly be holding me back is me, right? I have to admit that. I have to come to that conclusion before I can even start playing the game. Because most people will just be like, well, it's the government, it's the time of the month, it's how much time, it's whatever it is. It's like, you're just making excuses, and you'll never win at playing that game. So eventually you have to come to the conclusion, or admit to yourself, that the only thing that's holding me back is me. And now we get to at least start to unravel that. And now we can play the game. Now we're actually like, now we're in it. So why do we do that? There's a combination of a lot of different environmental factors, societal factors, and then it's just human nature. So, for one thing, human nature is to always survive. And beyond human nature, the nature of life, right? So everything comes down to, we can break it all down to evolution. The nature of life is to survive. So every given moment of every given second, every living thing is doing a calculation in its subconscious, either humans or plants or dogs or cats, of, is this thing going to get me farther from survival or closer to survival?
Right.
So eating a cheeseburger is calories. My body needs calories, so it's making me more likely to survive. Now that's in the short term. It's not thinking about the fact that 10 years from now I'm going to have heart disease and clogged arteries and all this other stuff. But everything, we can get super granular with that, right? When I'm watching Netflix and the thing says, "Are you still watching?" and I know I should get up and go work out, but in that moment, working out is expending energy.
Yes.
And the currency of life is energy. So in my right now brain, saving energy is better than expending energy. So my brain will always choose to save energy over expend energy. And now if we understand that, we can go a layer deeper and understand that anything that would cause us to change is expending energy. So staying the same costs no energy. Changing costs energy.
That's
so
it.
now inherently, at any given moment, anytime we want to change, we are inherently fighting against our evolutionary predisposition to stay the same. So evolution, life in general, our very cells that make us up want us to stay the same. And anything that we want, be it a better body, more money, a better relationship, a successful business, or literally anything, is change. It is change from what we already have. I do not have that thing, and to get it would require expending energy.
Yes.
So every part of my body is fighting against me in that moment. So now my body, my brain, is going to give me a logical reason to do that, because what we don't want to do is be wrong. So now we're going to go, okay, again, I'm watching Netflix and the thing says, "Are you still watching?" I don't even need to press the button. If I just sit there, the next episode will keep playing. Now, I might know that I said I was going to go work out today, but in that moment, I really don't want to do it. But my brain now will justify that decision that wants to save energy, but it's not going to do it just because I'm lazy or something like that. So it's going to go, I really earned this. I'm really tired. I really deserve this. I can work out tomorrow. It's going to be a lot of traffic if I leave now. In a million reasons. Our brain's its biggest superpower is being able to justify things for us, because going back to survival, right? Going back to survival, everything goes through that lens of what I just said. Is it going to make us closer to survival or farther away from survival? So energy expenditure is number one. That's it. If I expend too much energy, I'll die. If I have enough energy, I'll survive. The next step, once we have enough energy, because we're social creatures, the next thing is embarrassment. Do I do what I say I'm going to do? Right? Like, this is why justice and is so held deeply. Like, it's why, like, inherently we don't like people who are like mean or lie or take advantage of people who are less than them, because we have ingrained in us, just like we have that need for energy and to save energy, we have a need for a certain level of justice and things that to be right. And that's because growing up as pack animals, before money, before society, before anything else, we needed a way to know that we could trust people. If I protect you from a bear today, that you will protect my family tomorrow. If the hunt goes bad for me today and you give me food, you're going to do that with the assumption that next week when my crops come in, that I'm going to give them to you. Going back again, 10,000 years in the past. But all of that is still ingrained in us. So now lying is the ultimate break of that, right? That trust. So now if I'm lying to myself and saying like, I want to go work out, but like, I'm just going to sit on the couch instead, like, those two things don't match. It's what's called cognitive dissonance. When I can't have two conflicting ideas in my brain at the same time. So because of that, because I don't want to be a liar to myself, my brain will find a way to justify it. And will make that decision, which is sitting on the couch, ordering pizza instead of cooking, going to bed angry, right? Everyone knows, hey, again, it doesn't have to just be about food and exercise, right? Like, I want to have a good relationship with my wife, but we get into an argument and I know that we should talk about it or something like that, but I'm just going to like say, oh, it's all good and sweep it under the rug, even though it's going to fester at me and it's going to come back around later. Because again, that's the easier thing to do right now. But right now, my brain is going to go, oh, well, I just don't want to fight about it now. Like, we can talk about it later or something like that. It's going to justify that thing. So that's a very long-winded answer to say, why all of that leads to self-sabotage, because my brain is always trying to conserve energy and it's always trying to make me right. So it's always going to give me an excuse for why I shouldn't do the thing that is the thing that I probably in some capacity need to do.
Yeah. Okay, so I love everything that you talked about there. Yes, the brain wants to survive and it wants to conserve as much energy as possible in doing that. Um, and I also love kind of how you brought that into relationships. You have an argument and you know that you should try to wrap that up, talk about it, but we don't, again, because it takes energy to have an honest and a transparent conversation to resolve that conflict. And in season one of the podcast, I talked a lot about how we automatically assume that our brain is working for us and our best interests when that's not always the case. Like it thinks that it's doing the right thing for us by preventing the change or by rationalizing the reasons why we shouldn't change, but it often requires us to second guess our brains and to train our brains into functioning the way that we need it to function for that change to happen. So if you're talking to someone who is dealing with self-sabotage, number one, you have to realize that you're doing it, right? That has to be step number one. What comes after realizing that you're self-sabotaging? Like how do you coach someone who is a chronic self-sabotager out of that way of functioning?
Yeah, so you hit the nail on the head right there. The first thing is exactly that. Everything that we are doing, it is your brain doing what it thinks is in your best interest.
Yes.
It just happens to be that there's a mismatch between what our brain understands and the current world that we live in. Again, evolution happens over tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years. Human society has evolved in the last 50 years more than our brains can't even comprehend it. Again, the fact that you and I are talking face to face right now, my brain doesn't understand that we're not in the same room. Like, it doesn't make sense that we should be able to do this, right? Again, this is like social media. It's like we only the pack, the society was only you can only know 100 people tops or something like that, and yet we have friends lists with tens of thousands of followers and things like that. These things don't make sense to our brain. So our brain is mismatched with the current environment that we live in. So your brain is doing what it thinks is best for you. It just doesn't understand that it's running on an outdated software that it just isn't helping anymore. Okay, so understand that. So now what do we actually do about this? So you said awareness is the first key. I actually have a whole course that I teach on this, and I have an acronym that I use called S.L.U.M.P. So S.L.U.M.P. But before S.L.U.M.P, the first step is awareness. You can't solve a problem that you don't know. So we're saying we're aware now. We're problem aware. So S stands for the shoulds and supposed tos, right? This is the number one thing that people are going to self-sabotage about. Is it should be like this. It was supposed to be like this. So understand that the shoulds and the supposed tos are, again, I was supposed to be here by 30. My career was supposed to be at this point. I did this diet for 6 months and I should have lost 30 pounds. I invested my money and it was supposed to grow at this rate. And we have to understand that shoulds and supposed to, the word should is inherently at a disconnect for reality.
Yes.
Because if something should be, that means that it isn't, right? If I'm saying it should be like this, what I'm saying is it is not like this. And I feel like it should be, but it isn't. So inherent in that is I'm arguing with reality. I'm saying that what I want, what quote unquote should, I'm using air quotes for people listening, what should be is different than what really is. So that is going to now give my brain, right? We just talked about this, is always looking for an excuse of why I should save energy. Justice is a huge one, right? If something is not fair, my brain is going to go, this isn't fair, this isn't right. I need to save energy. So if it should be that I lost 30 pounds by now, but I've only lost 15, that's not fair when my brain is running that algorithm of, should I keep doing this? Should I keep expending my finite energy, my most precious resource? Should I keep doing this? Is going to say no. It gives me justification to quit. So all of this is always going to go right back to that one algorithm. Should I keep expending energy? Should I keep doing this? So the first thing are the S, shoulds and supposed tos. L is lacking clarity, right? So lacking clarity is, do I know what I'm actually working towards?
That's a big one.
Right. What is the actual end goal here? And specifically, because again, I use health and fitness as an analogy just because I think a lot of people have this idea, have tried this stuff, but this is not just about health and fitness, right? This is money, this is relationships, this is anything. I want to be happy. I want to be healthy. I want to be rich. I want to lose 20 pounds. It's like, okay, what do these things actually mean? I want to be happy, or again, I want to be rich. It's like, okay, you're working towards being rich, but what is rich? What does that mean to you? And then your brain, because you don't have a set finite end goal destination, your brain is running that algorithm all the time. Is this good for me? Is this good for me? Should I keep expending this energy? And because you're just working indiscriminately towards a destination that you'll never reach because it's not a real destination, it's going to go, no, this is stupid. Can't keep expending energy on this. I'll never get there. And gives me justification to quit. Right? Exactly. So SL, U is uncertainty. So uncertainty and lacking clarity kind of go the same way. Uncertainty is the deepest human need is certainty, right? Again, that algorithm. Should I expend this energy or not? My brain wants to know if I expend this energy, I will receive X, Y, and Z in return. So if I'm going to the gym, I will go to the gym if I know for a fact that I will get the result that I want.
Yeah.
Right. So I use this as an example. It's like whatever the goal is that you have, whether it's, again, building the thing that you keep saying over and over that you want to do, that you keep starting and you keep trying and you keep falling off, whether it's a diet, whether it's building a business, whether it's meditating, whether it's, again, writing more, whatever the thing is. If I sat you down today, opened up a briefcase, turned it around on the table, opened up a briefcase, and there's $1 million in cash in it. And I said, you signed this contract right here. And in 1 year from today, if you've worked on your goal every single day for the next 365 days, you get this $1 million guaranteed. You just signed a contract. I guarantee every person listening to this will get that $1 million, right? Because there is certainty in what they are getting. They know for a fact they will get it. So you can get yourself up to do the work when you have certainty that you will receive the result. And now the problem is that nothing is certain. You can do the work 100% of the time, right? You can have 100 people who do the same workout 100 days in a row, and they're going to get 100 different results. Same thing with a business plan. You can go and buy the Steve Jobs handbook. You can go buy the Elon Musk handbook. You can go buy the Mark Zuckerberg biography and follow his steps, step by step by step. Now, is there a good chance you'll be in a good place when all of that plays out? I mean, probably. You'll probably be better off than when you started. But are you guaranteed to have any result? Absolutely not. And because of that, justice, my brain is running on this algorithm. Is that fair? Is that fair? I was promised this. You told me that if I went to the gym every day for 6 months, I'd have abs, and now I still have a belly. That's not fair. I'm not going to keep wasting energy on this. I'm going to quit. So that's you. 2 more, and then I'll wrap up. M is money mindset. So money mindset is just because of the society that we live in, everything runs through a paradigm of money and cost, right? So because everything costs money, we are always looking at things through the frame of money and, should I be spending money on this, or is this worth money, or something like that? But again, humans are not really made for that. We are supposed to just live, and, in an ideal world, we would all just have all of the resources that we need. So there's an inherent disconnect in the way we look at money versus the way we look at our needs, right? We'll put things like anything that costs too much money, we will not look at it the same. So things like therapy, things like hiring a personal trainer, things like investing in a course or a coach or whatever it is. It's like, yes, it's a lot of money, so that I will not do it because of the money aspect. But it's like, if money was taken out of the equation, we would do all of those things.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So money is inherently holding, and that's a reality. Like, we can't get away from that, but it's important to be aware of, going to your point from earlier. If I'm aware of it, it's like, am I looking at this through a money lens as opposed to a what's actually best for me lens?
Yes.
And so you start to see the world differently. And then the last thing is P, which is perfectionism. And perfectionism is, this could have been the first one, could be bigger than all of them, because perfectionism is, again, a unrealistic, unattainable ideal. So we all have this perfectionism in us of black or white. It's all or nothing. It has to get done, and it has to get done the right way, or I might as well not do it, which in itself is a logical fallacy, right? We know logically when we think about that it's dumb and that we shouldn't do that. But my brain, again, going back to that same algorithm, should I be expending energy on this? If I'm not getting the desired result, that is a perfect reason for me to go, well, no, like, I shouldn't be doing this. So black or white thinking, all or nothing thinking, all of these different things are just that same concept playing out over and over, where anytime it doesn't work out exactly 100% perfectly, I'm giving myself an excuse to quit. But in reality, we have to realize that if you think of a dartboard and think of the dead center of the bullseye is, perfection. And you're throwing the darts and only counting it if it's the dead center of the bullseye. Not even a bullseye, but it has to be the dead center in it. But it's like the whole board counts. But you're ignoring all of the rest of that because you're not getting it perfectly where you want it to be.
Yeah.
And therefore, you could get all of these other things. You can win a game of darts without ever hitting a bullseye if you get enough points. But people are missing that and then inherently giving up on themselves because they're not getting it perfectly. So again, it's an impossible standard to hold themselves to. So they end up falling off and then justifying it because it's like, oh, well, if I can't do it perfectly, I might as well not do it all, which is just, again, logic. It's just our brain trying to keep us stuck. And then all of those go together. And usually if I break that down to someone, those 5 pieces, they will start to see at least one of those as the place that they're continually getting stuck. We're creatures of patterns, and usually one person will have 1 or 2 of them that they continually find themselves kind of bumping up against.
Wow. I hope that you wrote down everything that he said about S.L.U.M.P. For me, that's a game changer. It's a completely different way of looking at and remedying self-sabotage. And I chose to end the episode here and split it into a second episode just because I think Paul gave a lot of nuggets and I wanted to allow some time to digest, but also to put into action some of the things that he said. If you're dealing with perfection, if you're dealing with a money mindset issue, wherever you fall along that S.L.U.M.P acronym, if you are a self-sabotager, what we've talked about in this first piece of this episode is so very important. And I really want you to take some time this week to take action, to identify and actually realize if you are self-sabotaging, and then take steps to stop it. Because in the grand scheme of things, nobody is stopping you. You were stopping you. We are our own worst enemy, as you've heard it said so many different times. And I think that it's just of the utmost importance that we free ourselves, that we free our minds so that the rest of us can follow, because there's so much in this world for you to do. There's so much that you have to accomplish. There are so many people who are looking to you as a means of inspiration and encouragement. And as we continue bringing content to you on a weekly basis, it's our hope, it's my hope, that you're able to take it and diffuse it into your world, into your situations, so that we have a world that is filled with people who are bringing encouragement, who are pepped up, and who are not self-sabotaging. Now, the next episode, which will be episode 5, we're going to dig really into confidence issues. And so again, if you struggle with confidence, which people who self-sabotage often struggle with confidence, that's going to be an episode that you do not want to miss, and I do not want you to miss it either. So be sure to tune in for the next episode of the Pep Talk podcast. I thank you all for hanging out with us. Thank you for all of your reviews. Thank you for your kind messages, for your emails to the peppodcast@gmail.com, for following with us at _JB Speaks on Instagram. And I want to encourage you also to join the discussion, to continue the discussion in our Facebook community group, the Pep Talk Podcast Community. I can't wait to see you there to get to know you better. But I will see you next week as we continue this really informative interview with Paul Levitin. But as we like to always end it, we'll do it like this. Keep it love, keep it light, and keep it peppy. We'll see you next time. Pep Talk Podcast. Y'all be blessed.